Welcome back to the show today, folks. We have a very special guest. He's, I guess he's been a longtime friend of the family. I know a little bit about Ben and some general things, but I'm looking forward to visiting with Ben today about some more particulars about his life, some things I kind of know that are, I guess, kind of public knowledge or information about him, but other things not. So I do know this, that Ben has a real heart for the Lord. He's involved in ministry and just trying to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ to lost and dying world. And he's got quite a colorful life that he has lived so far. And Ben, I just want to say, man, thanks for your time today and look forward to visiting with you.
Hey, it's my pleasure, and it's always an honor to spend time with a guy who has one of the coolest names I've ever heard. I've always been jealous of your name.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. Well, I've kind of been jealous of yours too. I mean, you're also known as Banjo Ben. For many people, many of the viewers out there, Banjo Ben, and we'll put a link on that as well. But yeah, Chinn, that's right. Master Ken now.
yeah, Master Ken. That's right. Congratulations. I know how much work goes into a pursuit like that, and of course, I know you would agree. All glory goes to God. At the same time, much work went into that, especially with a guy as with the busy of schedule as you have. So uh, I just want to congratulate you and say job well done on that. And
Thank
plus
you.
from such a fine institution as Southwestern, and a lot of good folks over there. I know that you saw much fruit from that education, and you're going to continue to see that as you go forward. So great job, buddy.
Oh, thanks. Well,
Yeah.
give us a little bit of a rundown here, Ben. What was it like growing up? What kind of background were you brought up in? As far as were you exposed to the Christian faith? Were you born with a Bible in your hand? Or were you just start out with that?
Sure. Well, I'm actually talking to you here from East Texas, probably not too terribly far from where you're sitting now. But this is an old, new environment for me. The last 20 years I've spent in Nashville, and I'm sure we'll get into part of that story there. But I was born and raised on the very same farm where I now sit, and in a very unique family in that we had pursuits that you don't often associate together. So we farmed and we raised cows, and sometimes on a commercial level, but most of the time just a country working farm level. And then also had quite a legacy on my mom's side of classical music performance. So there's a long lineage there, going back to my grandma and the people that she associated with, of particularly with piano and vocal performance. So from the time that that I could hop up on a piano bench, I was urged toward that particular discipline, and there was no saying no to it. It was what I was going to do. I guess, especially after my mom saw that I had some talent and leaning toward that. But at the same time, working a farm and on the high school rodeo team and hunting and fishing as much as I could. And so a typical morning for me was an atypical morning for my friends. I would get up and milk cows and take care of various farm tasks, and also have to get in an hour of very regimented piano practice before I left for school that morning. And when I got home that afternoon, it was another hour of regimented piano practice, and then on to the farm chores again. So very thankful for that unique blend that developed God-given talents that I had for music, while also instilling in me an appreciation for hard work and for getting things done, and being responsible for for what you had to oversee, and developed a work ethic in me that, of course, I fought against and still fight against in my laziness at times, but still so very thankful that I saw what hard work was, and I also saw what was possible whenever we devote ourselves wholly to a discipline, and pursue that. So, as I mentioned, it wasn't an option for me to play piano until late high school. My mom finally kind of gave up the fight. She was worn out with other siblings of mine. And so there toward the end of high school, she let me come off the piano, and and I walked away from it. I had been so pressured, and I don't want to paint my mom and my grandma in a negative way at all, but there was so much pressure to perform and to make the most of my potential that I just wanted to break. And I walked away from music, from classical and formal music for many years, and to my detriment, to my great detriment, because I lost much of what I had there on the piano. I would go on to make a living playing piano in Nashville, but so the foundation was laid there, and I went on to play other instruments because of what I learned playing piano. And that's why my kids are playing piano now, and why they can't quit either. So, we learn from our childhood about maybe various approaches to disciplines, and I'm so much more thankful for um, the things that I was required to do than the difficult part of the process. Because at the end of the day, hardly any kid wants to try as hard as they can. They 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 all want to quit, and isn't that everyone's story? Or most everyone's. Oh goodness, I remember when I was 10 years old and I hated piano and I begged to quit, and I wish my mom wouldn't have let me quit, because they want to be able to play now. And so my mom had the wisdom to push me. And the first time I played the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, some some photographer had captured this wonderful image of me singing in the mic and playing. I was on mandolin for that particular shot, and playing mandolin with my eyes closed with the Grand Ole Opry sign behind me on the big screen, and I framed that picture um, for my mom, and I wrote on the mat, and I said, "Dear Mom, happy Mother's Day. Thanks for not letting me quit." And I attribute, the success that I might have experienced in Nashville directly to that discipline and the no quit approach that she took toward me. So I'm trying to do it the right way with my kiddos, an equal measure of no quit and an equal measure of compassion. So um, we all we all lack for wisdom as parents, but I'm trying to do the best that I can. Um, so there was no walking away from piano, and there's also no walking away from church. You mentioned that. We grew up in a Southern Baptist congregation that my ancestors were actually charter members of in the late 1800s. So many generations on both sides of my family actually had attended this church. And for most of my childhood, my entire family was very involved. So my uncle was the preacher, my grandma played the organ, my mom played the piano, my dad was a deacon, sometimes chairman of the deacons. And so it was that stereotypical Bible Belt um, Christian rhythm that we had going on. And in the same way, there's much to be thankful for. Um, as I went through life, and we'll continue to talk through this, so I'll just give a very brief overview. But as I went through life and faced difficulty and trial, I came back to depend on many of the things that I had taught to me growing up. But at the same time, there was a level of sincerity and genuineness that I did not experience as a kiddo. There were some rules and regulation approach to that I would come to find out later lacked relationship. And that was by far, I'm sure, more my fault than anyone else's. Okay. So I own that. I just want to be very careful in my critique there that that I'm the number one person to critique. But it required the Lord taking me away from this very comfortable cultural Christian existence that I was in, and to, I think, actually save me um, as an adult, and then to begin to show me His Word in new ways than I had ever seen before, and at a deeper level to eventually call me into ministry more and more over the years, and we can talk about that too. So, as I look back over how I was raised, I see the Lord's hand all over it. He's a sovereign God. He controls and arranges our steps, and I have much to be thankful for that I was exposed to what I was exposed to, and also I see lots of human error in there, including and especially my own, that He's continuing to correct and to wrench out of me. So um, I don't know if I answered your question or not, but uh, that's me, and still very much to learn on all the topics that we've covered so far.
Yeah, I think so many people can relate to that story. They're brought up and they hear about God and they're in church constantly, and then there's a period of time in their life, maybe when they hit their teenage years, or they go off to school or something, and they walk away from the faith, or they come to like I never made the faith my own.
Mhm.
It was always mama's faith or sister's faith or granddad's faith, and they have some type of a spiritual experience with the Lord, and that's when they are born again, or have that kind of encounter with God, that they embrace it for them. It's their faith from then on out.
Mhm. Yes, sir. Yeah, so I went to college uh, with I would say, looking back now, with a fake faith, a faith that met all the conditions of those that expected it of me growing up, but secretly, I was a bit crafty. Not as crafty as I thought I was, but I was a bit crafty, and I was pursuing many other things besides righteous things as as a teenager, and I couldn't wait to get out of the house and pursue those things full time. So I went to college, and the wheels didn't completely come off in that I was still able to hold it together with grades and what I was going after there. Uh, but the pursuit of sin and all the things that I ever dreamed of doing in college uh, were definitely chased after. And I remember thinking, as I would drive intoxicated some nights, knowing that I shouldn't be driving and knowing that there was a good chance that I would hurt myself or somebody else. This is just horrible to think back on, but it's just true. It's what happened. But I remember thinking with oh man, my theology was so messed up, and thinking that, you know what, if something does happen to me and if I am killed, um, at least I'll go to heaven. And that was based off of rituals that I had been um, that I had followed as a kiddo, um, to essentially get a a get out of hell free card as a kiddo. So I remember several times actually that we were told the truths of the gospel, and there were questions asked like, well, who here wants to go to heaven when they die? And and of course, all of us young kids, yeah. I mean, I don't want to go to another place. And then the well-meaning yet erroneous uh, leader would say, well, if you raise your hand, walk down to the front, and we would do that, and they'd say, now repeat after me, and we would repeat some words, this sinner's prayer, and then we would be affirmed without any further investigation that from that moment forward, you were eternally secure. And I'm not saying that there weren't some who actually were. I'm just saying that looking back on that, that for me, it was not genuine. It's not that I didn't genuinely want to go to heaven, but I did not have an understanding of what it meant to be a disciple of Christ. And as I matured, and eventually when God brought me to faith in my 20s, and I began to examine what the word actually says about what a disciple of Christ is required to do, um, then I understand what true saving faith really was. I understood the essence of repentance and the essence of true trust and faith in what he had done for me and for other sinners. So, I went through my undergrad and was on a uh, swift track to success. I thought I was going to be a doctor at first, shifted focus and graduated a little early, went directly into a grad school program that was a brand new program that Texas A&M had. I had a full fellowship, full grant, um, had everything paid for, including a car to drive. And not only that, I was teaching some undergrad classes and being paid for that. First time that I ever had any extra money in my whole life, and doing some high level research in forensics and loving it. And was had a dream to be the youngest PhD to graduate from A&M in my particular field. And one day, it was almost overnight, that pursuit, that drive disappeared. I remember sitting, this would be around 2001, 2002. I remember sitting at a computer writing a physiology term paper in grad school, and just, it's like it left me. And I looked at it and I said, I don't want to do this anymore. And I was right at the end. I was finishing up my classes and um, just had some paperwork to finish up, had my thesis to complete, but my research was done, and I just had this crisis of belief. Well, not crisis of belief yet. I wasn't being aware of my faith and the implications there, but I guess I was aware that God existed, but I was really happy that I wasn't having to deal with him every day, um, as I satisfied myself. But I didn't know what I was going to do, and I was very scared because a lot of money had been invested in me, and it was a pretty important thing to walk away from. It would disappoint a whole lot of people and set a lot of things back. But I went to one of the docs on my graduate board, who was actually a musician, and I've been playing music with him. He was a guitar picker, and I'd started playing banjo, and we were playing various gigs around town, doing jams, things like that. And we jammed in the laboratory after research was done. And I told him, I said, I don't know what to do, but this ain't it. And he says, well, what are you thinking? I said, man, I'm falling more and more in love with music, but that just doesn't seem like the right way to go. I mean, all of this investment, and it's just the stereotypical musician story of leaving it all to go chase dream of being a musician. How many of those wind up being successful? I mean, they just don't. And he looked at me, and he said, Ben, his name is Dr. Olson. He's passed away now, but he was a believer. He said, Ben, I think you need to go pursue that. To his detriment, to his own detriment. Now, the chairman of my graduate board did not feel that way, and that was quite a hostile departure that we had. But I started researching opportunities, and I've been been in education for many years by then. So I thought, why can I go to school and learn more about what I want to do? And I found a small school out in West Texas that offered a commercial music department degree. It was just a junior college, but it was a technical program, so to speak. So it was more about the commercial real life application of these things versus a classical approach. And so all of the instructors had real life experience. Many of them had toured for years and years in Nashville and New York and LA. And so they had done all the things that pickers were dreaming to be able to do and teach them in a realistic way. So I came home for a little bit, saved up a little money, drove a truck for a while, and moved out to West Texas and learned. I felt like, drinking from a fire hose out there from some incredible musicians. And so for 2 years, I spent literally 10, 12 plus hours a day playing music. And the rest of the time I was either sleeping or trying to rub a couple nickels together, various jobs to pay my way out there, because my parents weren't able to support me. And I was able to get a couple of scholarships, but that was an amazing time for me. For my musical progression, absolutely, but mainly spiritual. And I went out there with a couple guys that I'd gone to school with at A&M, that I partied and played music with there. They were ready for a change, and we went out there and carried the party with us to West Texas. And it was just 2 or 3 months into that raucous lifestyle, getting business taken care of, but just twisting it off after the sun went down, that things began to fall apart. And I didn't know why. I didn't know why relationships started becoming strained. I didn't know why I was not being able to make ends meet. I didn't know why I had this extreme depression and emptiness inside of me. But I got down to nothing. I had nothing, and felt completely alone. One day I was looking for a place to get some food, and there was a ministry, a Baptist ministry on campus that offered 50-cent lunches on Mondays. And I didn't have 50 cents, but they let me do it on credit. And I walked through the door, and it was being hosted or catered that day by a local Baptist church, Park Drive Baptist Church. And there was the pastor was this giant Mexican American guy that just saw me and immediately grabbed me and hugged me very awkwardly. I was like, what is this guy doing? Hey, brother, welcome. Get some of my wife's fajitas. I loved fajitas, but I was like, man, I hope he doesn't talk to me anymore. I don't want to tell him my story, because I was running, and that was beginning to set in. It was beginning to set in that I was running from the Lord, and that, as Spurgeon would call it, the hound from heaven was closing in. And I didn't I didn't want to admit that, and I didn't want to deal with that because I knew what it required. By that point, I had figured out what it required. It required an actual surrender and an actual proclamation of who is the boss. And I knew deep down that it wasn't me, but I did not want to admit that, and I didn't want to accept the consequences of what that would mean, even though those consequences are true life, right? But the enemy lies to you. The enemy lies to you. The enemy tells you that when you surrender to the Lord that you're being imprisoned. But the word says that the truth sets us free, right? So it was true freedom that I was running from. How ironic. So he did. He sat down right across the table from me. Hey, tell me your story. And I bluffed some stuff to him, but he talked me into coming to their church Wednesday night because his wife was cooking enchiladas, and I love enchiladas. So I went, and I didn't tell anybody there of my just financial situation or anything. But that night I went out to my truck, and there was a $20 bill underneath my windshield wiper. No one knew that I wasn't even going to be able to make it to school the next day because I didn't have the gas money to go. Just like, whoa. I mean, that greatly impacted me. Not so much the generosity of the person, that's amazing, but it was just a sign to me that the Lord cared uh, for my needs, right? So it was this tangible evidence of the Lord's pursuing of me and thinking about me. So I continued to go to church there, and the Lord just started drawing me. Well, he already was, but he just really, really started shucking the rope. to where I found myself. I don't even remember how I got there, but I found myself one day in the middle of a cotton field out near this shack where I was renting for $150 a month, and just on my knees and broken, and and just saying to the Lord out loud, "Okay, I'm done. You know, I give up. I'm not running anymore. What what is it that you would have me do? Um,
Yeah.
I hope you don't send me to Africa, but whatever it is, I'll do it. I'm done running. You've worn me out. I'm at the end of everything that I am." And and there was no question to me that he was genuine and that his word was true. And it was interesting, the affirmation that I got after that. I didn't hear any audible word from the Lord, but through his word and through his spirit and through counsel of brothers, it was, um, I was right in the middle of his plan all along. He says, "I want you to play music. That's why you're out here." You know, and that was bewildering to me and amazing that he was directing my path the entire time, even in the midst of my rebellion. Yeah, because my rebellion to him was no surprise. And looking back, it was he that pulled the desire from me to continue my grad studies. It was he that drew me out to West Texas. It was him that removed me from all my comforts and then one by one picked away my securities so that I would be left without support and have nowhere to fall but on him. So he had, before the foundations of the world, engineered that entire trick. And I'm so thankful that he did. So uh, the very next week after, and I believe that's when he saved me. I may get to heaven and find out that he saved me legit at 9 years old and he let me run. And then he was just jerking the chain back on me when I was 22. That's fine with me too. I'm not going to die on that hill. But looking back, it seems to me that that's when he saved me. And that's when I really understood what it meant to follow him. So the very next week, I sat down in the same little Baptist Student Ministries building for another lunch on credit. And a cute little girl that I'd seen running around the halls of school sat down right across from me. I was scared to death to talk to her, but she sat down and said, "What's your name? Where are you from?" Uh, Told her, and she asked if I had Thanksgiving plans, and I didn't have the money to make it home for Thanksgiving. I said, "No, I'm going to stay out here and practice my banjo." And this, what? You have to be with your family at Thanksgiving. I live in Dallas. You can ride with me to Dallas, and then you can catch a ride from Dallas to East Texas. And I immediately thought, 6 hours in the car with this beautiful girl, getting to know her. I think I'll do it. So that started our relationship, and now my wife of 18 years, Hannah, and she went on to move to Nashville after that first year to finish her education at Belmont University. And that was another great encouragement to me to follow her path to Nashville to try to make a living there. And I wanted to see if I had what it took to make it. I did develop a big dream to try to play music professionally. I knew that it was a whole other world there of, of talent. And
That's the best of the best there.
Yes, and I'd had friends, few friends from high school and college that had gone on to play professional level sports, and they were the best of the best in high school. They were the best of the best in college, and most of them did not see a single play at the major league level. It's just good, just that good, and that's what Nashville is. It's thousands and thousands and thousands of the best local pickers in their town going to Nashville and not seeing a play. So I went there and tried to pursue it as humbly as I could and tried to just outwork my competition. And one thing that I did have going for me is that I played several instruments. I played piano. This is where the piano would come back around. And but I had spent the last couple of years really honing in on banjo and guitar and mandolin and dobro, the acoustic instruments, all the ones behind me, and singing harmony. At the same time, I had my commercial driver's license. I wasn't afraid to work I wasn't afraid to get there earlier than other people. And I knew that that's the angle I was going to have to take, because once I got there, I saw the talent level and I knew that I was nowhere in that league. I'm just being completely honest. Uh, I, I knew that on any one of my instruments that I wasn't in the top 1,000 pickers in town. Um, and that was very, very intimidating. However, if I brought enough to the table and I worked hard enough and I could get along with people, maybe there was a shot for me to get a job. And that's what happened. The grace of God allowed me to get a shot with a new artist that just got signed to a record label. Did his promotional tour with him, playing all the acoustic instruments, singing and traveling around. Really got to know the industry quite well that way. And then his management happened to manage another bigger artist that had won American Idol and now had some radio hits. They needed a piano player. He called me, could you do that job? Boom, jumped over there. That turned into a full-time gig. Then while we were on the road, I met the drummer and band leader to another artist, Craig Morgan, that I really wanted to play with. And they ended up needing a piano player, but they had to have somebody that also played banjo and mandolin because a lot of his hits also had those things. Well, there's very few people in Nashville that could play piano and banjo and mandolin and guitar at a high enough level. So I ended up being quite sought after, even though my individual skill on those instruments weren't anywhere near the top of the totem pole there in Nashville. So went on with him, toured with him for several months. That was a really fun time. He had the biggest song on radio that year with That's What I Love About Sunday. And so got to play the Grand Ole Opry many times and tour with George Jones and do all kinds of things I just never dreamed that I would be able to do. But there was this drive in me, this desire in me to always experience the next level of success. You know, when I first moved to Nashville, it's like, I wonder if I could ever actually get paid $1 to play music in this town. And then that happened. I played a showcase for a little songwriter. She gave me $100, $200. So, oh, I just got paid to play music in Nashville. And then it was, well, what if I got paid to leave Nashville and go play a gig somewhere else, you know, and then that would happen. But I would always set another goal. And I saw it as healthy. And in some ways it is to always be looking forward, right? But then it was, I wonder if I could get a gig where I was riding on a tour bus. I wonder if I could play on TV. And these things began to happen. And so the goal kept getting pushed higher and higher. And what I didn't realize at the time was that I had begun to attach my identity to that goal achievement. I had begun to hitch my joy and my fulfillment to whether or not that goal was matched. So I was beginning to slowly walk away from the foundation that was laid for me in West Texas. It was easy to do because the nature of playing music for a living is that you're gone on the weekends. And so 52 Sundays in a year, I might have made one to church. So in the most all of these band configurations I was in, if there were believers in the band, it was not the taunted lifestyle. Let's just put it that way. There were other lifestyles that were taunted, right? So I'm constantly in a barrage of just sinful patterns, and while also not having the reinforcement of the local church, while also not having brothers around me to say, hey, man, stay strong. Hey, man, here's what's important. Those are worldly things, not inherent, maybe not inherently sinful. Nothing sinful with playing country music, nothing sinful with getting paid to do it, nothing sinful with going on tour and experiencing these incredible career highs, notoriety. All that's good. The sinful part is attaching your identity to those things and making them an idol, depending on them for your own joy and peace. And that's slowly what I have begun to do. So now I found myself with a goal that was as high as I could dream. That was, I want to play for the #1 artist in the world. I want to play pop music. I want to forget just this Nashville thing. I want to play Paris. I want to I want to play all around the world. I want to play all the tonight shows, all the talk shows. And I got a call from a guy that I was previously toured with that had got a gig with a brand new artist, a little 17-year-old girl named Taylor Swift. And initially I said no. I didn't want to go work for a teenage girl or work for her parents. Uh, but he said, listen, man, we just got our first tour announced, and it's with George Strait. And I know that you're a Texan. And it's
Uh,
50 dates with George with Ronnie Millsaps also on the bill. So, and now that got me. Yeah, that was another goal. And that would have been the first like um actual nationwide tour that I was on. What I mean by that is like the caravan buses and trucks going down the road, playing huge stadiums, playing NBA stadiums, the same catering crew going with you from place to place, learning your favorite breakfast, exercise gyms traveling with you, personal trainers, just the whole thing that you imagine when you're going on tour. Whereas what I'd done so far was we were on tour, but we were doing weekend stuff and playing some bigger things here and there. But this was the first like 50 date world, or that was nationwide tour. And so I couldn't turn
that's
it
another level.
another level. You and every night playing to sold out 30 plus thousand seat stadiums and beyond. And I said, yeah, man, I want to do that. And I had no idea what Taylor would become, but over the next 2 years, she would go from baby opening act with George Strait to the number one selling artist in the world. And it was quite a ride. It was quite a ride. And I was very involved with Taylor because of all the instruments that I played. On the weekends, on the tour dates, the full band would play those shows, of course, but then many times they would go home on Sunday and I would stay. And Taylor and I, and maybe a fiddle player, would stay out and we'd beat the bushes all week doing promotional shows and listener appreciation shows and boardroom shows and going and playing for the board of directors for Target that we're trying to get a new album release there, and or whatever it may be. We were working hard, and she became like a little sister to me, and she took care of me well because of that, because of what I sacrificed. But I went from touring with my other acts, which were quite busy, being gone 250 days a year. Now with Taylor, I was gone 320, 330 days a year. And none of those remaining 30 days were ever in a row. So the home life was gone. I was married, didn't have kids, but never made a funeral, never made a wedding, never made a birthday, never made an anniversary. All the holidays we were touring, doing some kind of TV special for Christmas or whatever it was. And I thought that was going to satisfy me. Found myself New Year's Eve playing to the biggest crowd I could ever imagine playing, Times Square, 1.5 million people there New Year's Eve. And I found myself on that stage, a sideman in Nashville's dream, to be playing for an artist that's the featured entertainment for New Year's Eve in Times Square, and finding myself saying, I wish that I wasn't here. I wish that I was home. And I couldn't really verbalize it in my heart and mind yet, but what I came to find out was that I had run out of the world. The world had given me what it could give me, and it wasn't enough. And what my believing fleshly heart, my new heart, desired more than the world was something real and something that could give me more. And so it was a call to come home, call to stop setting your hopes and your desires and your identity on these passing things and come back to what matters. So I left after we played that night. I went back to my hotel room and called my wife. I said, I don't know how we're going to do it financially, but I'm quitting. And that's just kind of part one, because from there, the Lord did some amazing, amazing things to provide for us. It was my dream to write songs for a living. He miraculously gave me a songwriting publishing deal with Sony Publishing, allowed me to write songs for a living for a couple of years. And then beyond that, gave me an idea to begin in the world of education. When I was out with Taylor, we had a lot of downtime. We were gone a lot, but there was a lot of downtime. And I loved playing bluegrass. That was my first love when I picked up a guitar my senior year in high school. And in those early days of YouTube, there wasn't much instruction, not much good instruction. With my off time, I would just throw up a silly video on YouTube and just show folks how to play this or that, never expecting anyone to watch it. Seriously. And a lot of my early antics, just being silly, was for my own entertainment and not expecting anyone but my family to watch it. But they started getting more and more popular. I started getting more and more requests to where those videos grew. And eventually I thought, I wonder if I can monetize this. And so I created my first website around 2012 and asked my following on YouTube and Facebook and such that if they wanted more regular entertaining and educational content weekly, that they could come over and maybe buy a membership. And that would hopefully allow me to devote myself to this at more of a full-time level. And I started that in 2012, 12 years ago. And I've made an instructional video every week now for 12 years. And that's continued to be what I've done now. So it's grown a lot now. I have an incredible team that helps me. I have 3 people in Nashville and 1 in Florida. And then I've opened a retail side of the business, a music store where people can buy instruments and supplies. That actual brick and mortar store is in Southwest Missouri near Branson. I have an incredible team out there that keeps that thing running like a top. And then I've branched out into doing educational events in person. I call them cabin camps, and they're held all over the world, literally, mainly in the US. But people can learn about that by going to banjobenevents.com. And last 5 years, we've been doing those like gangbusters. I've gotten a little bit tired because they are so time consuming. This year we did 5. We have been doing 8 to 9 a year all over. And it was supposed to start out as just a kind of a fun thing, and it turned into a real job. So we've done already this year Florida, Georgia, and Texas, and then we're going to Montana, and then another one back in Texas this fall. And that's just where my students and beyond can come into a location and spend multi-days learning from some of the best instructors in the world. I get the best instructors ever to come in and devote themselves to these students in a small student to teacher ratio to help them get better over the course of a few days. But ultimately, bringing it back to the theme of this podcast and discussion, this is all ministry. It's all ministry. And I have not always seen it like that, but the Lord's made that clear. I have students in over 50 countries around the world. My videos make it into their living room every week. Many of these countries that are devoid of the gospel. Some of these countries, missionaries can't even enter. And some of these regions, missionaries can't even enter. But in my videos, sometimes explicitly, sometimes implicitly, communicate the gospel. I teach a lot of hymns and gospel songs. That's not mainly what I do. But even in my other lessons that I teach, I'm trying to communicate gospel principles. And I've been blessed to see people come to faith through the website all over the world over the years. And just I've got up here on my wall, I have a celebration of life program for a guy named Gary Price. He passed away April 11th of this year. And I met him 1 year ago for the first time on this farm at one of my camps. He was in my guitar class, and we developed a friendship. I did not know at the time that he was stage 4 cancer patient and a non-believer and with a very hard heart. And over the course of this last year, the Lord used music and our friendship to soften his heart. And in January this year, he came to faith in Christ. And in April of this year, I was honored to preach his funeral with great joy because of what the Lord's done. So that's what I do for a living is that. And that's what the Lord's given me. So my events aren't explicitly gospel centric Christians, but everyone on my team are Christians. We treat everyone that comes with the love of Christ. And We have a lot of Christians that come. We have a lot of atheists that come. We have a lot of people, all kinds of different lifestyles and worldviews come. They're always made to feel welcome. And a lot of times they're, because they know I'm a Christian, they're a little bit apprehensive before they come. They're like, what's this going to be like? Is this like going to church? I'm not interested in that type of
Yeah.
thing. And it would, yeah, and it would be fun. It's fun to see on my forum, like other non-believers chime in and say, no, man, he's a Christian, but you'll feel totally welcome. The food's great. They'll love on you. Come on. And so for a lot of these people, it's the first time that they've ever seen that many Christians together in one place, and the first time that hopefully they experience true Christ-like love. And that's what got Gary.
Yeah.
That's what he couldn't get over is how much we love it. And you know what's funny is that we don't see it as anything special. And what's happening is the Spirit of Christ is working through us start everyday lives hosting these events, even in the midst of our stresses, even in the midst of the problems that we have going on, and supernaturally reflecting from us the love of Christ in ways that we're not even aware of. Many
Mhm.
times these people tell me about how they've been impacted with things, and I look back and think, oh gosh, I don't even remember saying nothing. I don't remember us being overly, um, overly accenting various things that they are impacted by, but it's the Lord. It's the Lord. It's just like when you preach a message. I'm sure that you've delivered the word a few times, and people come up to you afterwards and say, "Oh man, really, the word really impressed me here." And you think, "Gosh, that wasn't even one of the main things I was even talking about," you know. So the Lord's just been really, really good. I don't know how long He'll have me do that. There's a season for everything. Um, but I do feel like that he's calling me more into ministry formally. I don't know what that looks like. I don't think that that's necessarily settling down and staying within these borders. There's people called to do that. I don't know that I am. I have a great love and passion for Hispanic ministry for whatever reason. Maybe it goes back to that Mexican pastor in West Texas, but I've inspired to learn the language and to reach out to Hispanics around here. And then I found myself in Mexico 5 or 6 times just over the last year doing gospel work. So I think um, that I'll probably get pulled in that direction a little more, even though I'm the least Mexican looking dude ever. But
Got to work on your tan.
yes, yeah. But I love the culture, and they really appreciate that genuine love of their culture and their language and their food, and then know that you genuinely care about them. So um, I've just had many adventures over this last year, and expect the Lord to give us many more. And whatever He has in store, I'm down for it, because I know that His way is the best way, and I've seen how He's arranged my whole path. It's beyond anything I could imagine. I couldn't engineer it. I couldn't, with all the ingredients, I couldn't put together the story that He's woven. And I know that's true for everyone listening here. If you are one of Christ's children, or He's pursuing you and drawing you to be one of His, He's doing it on purpose. He's the grand designer, He's the supreme engineer, and He has your life in the palm of His hand. And He's calling you to Him, and He has purpose. He has purpose for you. And it may look different than mine, but it's no less valuable. And that's what I'd like people to hear.
I think it's so beautiful. You talk about music and how God just uses the gift of music, no matter what background people are coming from, atheist, Christian, whatever, how that just there's just a communication or a bond that people have over that gift of music, and how God can seeing how God uses that just to slowly open people's hearts up to the gospel like you're doing. And then on your videos, for those of you who have not familiar with Ben's videos, it's educational. Okay, you will learn something, but you make it entertaining and try to have fun with it instead of okay, this is, this chord or that chord. We're going in this key, you're transitioning and all that. You have kind of a gift and a knack for making learning enjoyable, I think.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, life's too short to not have fun in everything that we do, and work is supposed to be, um, I mean, work is still toil, no doubt about that. But it doesn't mean we have to be serious all the time. And I believe that I thrive there because I do bring the education and the entertainment factor into almost everything that I do. Some of it's purely corny entertainment, and some of it gets a little on the educational side, and I have to lighten it up every now and then. But you know, from a business, I know you're a business guy, but from the business and marketing side of it, which I have to consider, I have to try to set myself apart from the many, many other people that are doing what I'm doing. Well, it's been an honor to be with you.
All right. God bless you. Give my love to the family.
You too, my friend. God bless you and your all your viewers out there.